ever wonder if, like, someday a robot's gonna just, like, take your job? It's a question that keeps, popping up, and it's for good reason. Today, we're going on a deep dive into this research paper. It uses some pretty serious tech, AI and robotics, to actually, like, predict the chances of different jobs getting automated.
Yeah.
And get this, it's not just those factory jobs on the line. We're talking about white-collar professions, too, like lawyers, even truck drivers.
Pretty crazy.
Buckle up, because this is going to get interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so this research paper, it's called The Future of Employment. How susceptible are jobs to computerization?
Kishy, right?
Doesn't exactly sound like, light reading, but knowing what might be coming is half the battle.
I mean, that's kind of the point of all this.
Yeah.
What's really fascinating here is how this research kind of builds on this idea from, like, almost a century ago.
Oh, wow.
John Maynard Keynes, a famous economist, he warned about something called technological unemployment. Basically, he predicted that machines could, like, develop faster than we could create new jobs for people.
Yeah.
And think about it, we've already seen, like, glimpses of this happening.
Oh, totally.
Remember bank tellers?
Oh, yeah.
ATMs took over a lot of those basic transactions, which unfortunately meant fewer tellers were needed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So this paper takes that idea, runs with it, analyzes over 700 jobs to see which ones are most at risk.
It's a lot.
That's massive.
It is. They use a really interesting method, too.
Okay.
They combine data about what skills and knowledge each job actually requires with what computers are becoming good at. It's like they're mapping out where human abilities and technology kind of start to overlap.
Yeah.
And where technology might,
Take over.
take over.
Yeah, okay, so it's like a head-to-head between humans and machines.
Yeah, in a way.
This whole job polarization thing the paper talked about, they even call it lousy and lovely jobs. What's that all about?
It describes a trend where, like, routine jobs are shrinking,
Okay.
while jobs at both the high-skill and low-skill ends are growing.
Okay.
Technology is great at taking over those repetitive, rule-based tasks.
Right.
But as technology gets even smarter, it can tackle things that used to be considered, like, exclusively human.
Okay, that's where I start to get a little nervous.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about robots doing, like, simple, repetitive stuff anymore.
Right.
This paper is saying that computers are getting better at non-routine tasks, the kind of things we always assumed only humans could do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, take driverless cars, for example.
Okay.
A while back, experts were, like, super skeptical. Driving seemed way too complex to automate with all the, like, split-second decisions involved.
Yeah.
But look at us now. Companies like Google have self-driving cars on the roads.
I can't even parallel park without breaking a sweat. I guess I shouldn't be surprised if robots are just better drivers. But this is making me think, if machines can potentially do more and more of these, like, complex jobs, are A and Y jobs safe?
That's the big question, isn't it? And this research offers, like, some clues.
Okay.
It highlights tasks like perception, complex decision-making,
Right.
and being able to, like, adapt quickly.
Right.
These are areas where humans still have an edge, for now at least.
So it's not just... It's about, like, developing skills that machines haven't mastered yet.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling a little overwhelmed.
Understandable. It's a lot to take in.
Before we jump ahead, can we go back to, like, how they analyzed all those jobs? How'd they even begin to, like, approach that?
They tapped into something called ONET data, which is this huge database describing, like, all the skills and knowledge needed for different jobs.
Okay.
Then they compare that to the capabilities of different technologies like AI, machine learning, robotics.
Okay, so they're basically looking at what each job requires and then seeing what technology is already capable of doing or on the verge of doing.
Right.
And that's how they're making these predictions about which jobs are most likely to be automated.
Exactly, yeah. But it's crucial to remember this study is about potential.
Right.
They're not saying robots will take over these jobs next week.
All right.
It's more about figuring out which jobs are most vulnerable based on, like, current trends.
So even if my job isn't on the chopping block tomorrow,
Right.
this stuff is still important to think about.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, these trends have to be affecting entire industries, right?
Absolutely. Even jobs that can't be directly automated are still feeling the impact of technology. Things like wages,
Okay.
the demand for certain skills, even the specific tasks within a job,
Yeah.
all of that can change as technology.
Evolve. So it's not just about jobs disappearing. It's about jobs like changing, morphing into something new,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, totally.
And this whole offshoring thing where jobs are sent overseas, is that related to automation too?
Yes, and the paper makes a really important distinction there.
Okay.
Some jobs are hard to offshore because they require like being physically present in a specific location
Yeah.
or maybe involve lots of face-to-face interaction.
Okay.
But those same jobs might actually be easier to automate.
Right.
Think about like those self-checkout kiosks replacing cashiers.
Yeah.
That's a prime example.
Okay. So it's not just a question of will robots take my job? It's more about how will my job change because of technology?
Right.
And that can feel like a little scary,
Totally.
but also kind of exciting, right?
There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Are there actually any jobs that are becoming more important
Oh, yeah, definitely.
because of all this tech?
There are. And the research delves into that too.
Okay.
But before we get there, I think it's time for some real talk.
Okay, hit me.
When I first read this paper,
Yeah.
there were some jobs on that high-risk list
Oh, no.
that really made me stop and think.
Okay.
Are you ready for some eyebrow-raising examples?
Lay it on me. What kind of jobs are we talking about? I'm bracing myself.
Well, telemarketers are probably not a shocker,
Yeah.
right? Those robocalls have already become, like, part of life.
Yeah, for sure.
But what about loan officers?
Loan officers.
Apparently, algorithms and data analysis can handle a lot of what they do.
That's interesting. I guess when you break it down, a lot of financial decisions are based on like pretty clear criteria.
Exactly.
But what about jobs that require like more creativity? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
writers. Surely robots can't write novels or screenplays, right?
That's where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
The paper argues that even some creative tasks can be automated, at least to a certain extent.
Okay.
Think about like writing basic news reports or product descriptions for websites.
Yeah.
AI is already being used for that kind of stuff.
Honestly, this is a bit scary, but also kind of exciting. It's hard to wrap my head around machines doing things we always thought were like uniquely human. I know, right? If they can write and analyze financial data, what does that mean for the skills that are going to be like most valuable in the future?
That's the key question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The paper talks about skills that go beyond routine,
Okay.
things like perception, complex decision-making,
Right.
and the ability to adapt to like unexpected situations.
Yeah.
These are the skills that, until recently, were considered things only humans could do well.
Yeah.
But as computers get better at these things, it raises the bar for what we bring to the table.
So it's not just about learning to code, it's about developing those human strengths that machines haven't quite
Mastered.
figured out yet,
Yeah.
right now at least. It
Okay.
sounds like it's all about working with technology, not against it.
Exactly. It's about
Yeah.
figuring out how to like combine our human skills with the power of technology.
Okay.
Think about a nurse, for instance. Sure, they have some routine tasks
Yeah.
like checking vital signs. But so much of their job involves like reacting to unpredictable situations,
Yeah.
comforting patients, and making judgment calls based on these like subtle cues.
Yeah.
These are all things computers aren't quite ready to handle.
That's a really interesting example. It makes this whole robots taking over thing feel a bit less abstract.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic. Even with all this talk about automation,
Right.
it's not like robots are going to march into offices tomorrow
Right.
and take over. Like every job, there's
Yeah.
got to be a transition period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This study is all about potential,
Right.
not a fixed timeline.
Right.
Remember, there are all sorts of other factors that influence whether or not a job actually gets automated. Cost, regulations,
Yeah.
even whether people are like comfortable with robots doing certain jobs.
Yeah.
All of that plays a role. The point is,
Yeah.
these trends are worth paying attention to.
It's like a heads up about what the working world could look like down the road. So even if my job isn't going to like vanish overnight,
Right.
it's likely to change in some way because of all this technology.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to stay flexible, to keep learning and evolving your skills.
Okay.
It's about being proactive, not just reacting when things change suddenly.
Okay, so if we're thinking about like preparing for the future,
Yeah.
what are some key things we should be focusing on? What advice would you give listeners who are trying to like navigate this changing world of work?
First of all, take a deep breath.
Okay.
This isn't about like robots taking over the world.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the forces at play
Right.
and figuring out how to adapt.
Right. Freaking out never solved anything. So what else can people do?
Think critically about the skills you have now
Yeah.
and how they might be affected by automation.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what are some of the tasks I do that a machine could potentially do?
Yeah.
And what are the skills I have that robots can't replicate? At least not yet.
Those are good questions to think about. And I guess it's also about being like curious
For sure.
and open to new opportunities.
Yeah.
The landscape is changing fast, so we got to change with it.
Absolutely. The world of work is evolving rapidly.
Yeah.
And the jobs of the future might look totally different from the jobs of today. Being adaptable and willing to learn new things is going to be like essential.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just about mastering one specific skill or trade.
Right.
It's about being open to like continuous learning.
Absolutely.
It sounds like we're all going to be students for life,
It's true.
but this has all been focused on the potential downsides.
Yeah.
Are there any upsides to automation? I mean, it can't all be bad news, right?
You're right. It's not all doom and gloom.
Okay.
Technology has the potential to free us from those like boring, repetitive tasks and to make our work more efficient and even more fulfilling.
Okay.
In fact, the paper spends a good chunk of time discussing the potential benefits of automation.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. It's easy to get caught up in the like robots are taking over narrative, but there's another side to the story. Let's dig into that a bit more. Okay, so we've talked about the potential downsides of automation, but it's not all doom and gloom, right? What are some of the potential benefits that this paper highlighted?
One of the big ones is like increased productivity.
Okay.
When machines handle those routine, often tedious tasks, it frees up humans to, focus on more complex, creative work.
Right.
And that can be a win-win for both businesses and workers.
So instead of robots stealing our jobs, they're actually freeing us up to do more interesting and meaningful work. That's a much better way to look at it.
Right.
Imagine if you're a doctor. How much more time could you spend with patients if, like, AI handled all the paperwork and scheduling?
Exactly. It's about using technology to our advantage, letting it handle the things we don't necessarily like, enjoy, or excel at.
Right.
Think about all the time we spend on things like data entry or answering like repetitive emails. What if we could use that time for, problem solving,
Yeah.
brainstorming new ideas,
Yeah.
or collaborating with others?
Now that's a future I can get behind. The paper also mentioned that automation can actually lead to the creation of new jobs, right?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
While some jobs will inevitably be displaced, history has shown that technological advances often create entirely new industries and job categories that we couldn't have even imagined before.
Right.
A few decades ago, who would thought we'd have jobs like web developers, social media managers, or data scientists?
It's like that saying, when one door closes, another opens. As technology changes, we find new ways to work and contribute to society. So maybe instead of fearing the robots, we should be focusing on how to partner with them, how to leverage their strengths to enhance our own.
Absolutely. And this research is really a call to action. It's a reminder that we need to be proactive in shaping the future of work. It's not about passively waiting to see what happens. It's about taking control.
Yeah.
Embracing lifelong learning.
Right.
Constantly developing those essential human skills that robots can't replicate.
It sounds like adaptability and a willingness to learn new things are key. It's not just about learning a specific skill. It's about developing a mindset that embraces change and views learning as an ongoing journey.
I couldn't have said it better myself. We're all lifelong learners now, whether we realize it or not. The world is changing faster than ever, and the future belongs to those who are willing to adapt and embrace the possibilities.
I love that. Embracing the possibilities. Who knows what incredible things we'll be able to achieve when we combine human ingenuity with the power of technology. Maybe this isn't the end of work as we know it, but the beginning of something even better.
I think you're right. There's a lot to be excited about, even if it feels a bit uncertain right now. This research is a reminder that we have the power to, shape our own future.
So what's the one thing you want listeners to take away from this deep dive? What's the most important piece of advice you can give them as they, navigate this changing world of work?
Embrace a growth mindset. Be curious, be adaptable, and never stop learning. The future belongs to those who are willing to evolve and embrace change.
That's great advice. And to our listeners, I encourage you to check out the show notes for links to the research paper we discussed today. It's definitely worth a read. As always, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.